Shirley here with Jupiter point of Thales. This is Venus hour, and my hair absolutely fits the topic. I want to talk about Uranus in the 10th house, Uranus midheaven, or Uranus going through your 10th house or your midheaven. And I say this as a natal Uranus in the 10th. This is a transition where you're about to be liberated in a very public way. So it's a scandalous transition. But this is a time where, depending on how accustomed you are to control things, or how you're seen or perceived, is going to change a lot of the experience for you. Um, of course, you have to see how is your 10th house aspected, where is the ruler, and so on and so forth. But the thing is that you really can't expect things to go in a very orderly fashion when Uranus is in town, whatever it's crossing and whatever you have in the 10th house. It's also true to any Uranus transit. Okay, let's say Uranus transits your Venus. So this is a time where you could get a divorce and married to a new person, or this is a time where your values of what you in general can change. If yeah, so you can suddenly meet somebody, and that is can be very liberating. Okay, relationship, whether it lasts or not. But Uranus going to your midheaven or going over your 10th house, and to some degree the 11th house as well, this is a time where that revolution is very public. And so, as a natal Uranus in the 10th house, I know that my public appearance is like the stuff that I go through uh, is usually in some way ending up very public, and very controversial, and very liberating for many people. Um, but if you are a type of person who is very meticulous about keeping things hidden, keeping things at bay, not having scandals surface, then you're going to have a really challenging time with that. Although, if Uranus is, you want to see what is it trining and sextiling, because it may be with those segments is maybe a time where it is all out there and it's okay. And that is basically, even through crisis, this is what Uranus comes to show you, because it is life energy. And this is and life energy is also sexual energy, so this is why 10th house can bring scandals to do with that, but it's also about liberating your life energy so that you will be able to do what you came to do in life, especially with the midheaven. So you might be more into astrology at the time, or science, scientific revolutions, or you might be a little bit of a reactionary. Okay? You might be revolutionary leader yourself, or even if you leader that is not really about steering the pot, you might at this time actually be revolutionary. Another thing that uh, that can come up is, of course, your appearance, because it's how you appear to the public. Okay, um, Uranus rules also communities, mass media, the general nervous system. Um, that may mean that if you have been a type that try to keep something from not surfacing on social media, when you're like, if it's Uranus that's causing the issue, you have to just like let it. It would be less in your face when you let it happen, because otherwise, and I've seen stuff. Let's say prominent dominant figures that had Uranus just crossing their midheaven. Donald Trump. Okay, the assassination has to do with his Mercury. It's not necessarily that Uranus. Okay, it has midheaven better per se, so don't take it like that. But it's kind of like a lot of things surfaced that, and I think Donald Trump is kind of learned how to flow with that, with Uranian energy. It's something very familiar to him. Um, so eventually it's just kind of like that, you just kind of have to let it be, or the way he's being Trump, he would make another controversy, um, and that can work for a while, but um, that's also something that is uh, definitely not something he could hide in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so now again, this is a very eccentric person to begin with, um, but that midheaven was definitely uranified, uranified to extreme. Um, so yeah, scandals, they will arise, and the more that you try to control, the more it's going to be like okay, because Uranus is rebellious. um, Challenges can be, I remember um, when Uranus was trine in my midheaven, it was around the Me Too era. I was writing a satire, and that was the very first time in my life that it actually matters how I'm seen, because I was recovering from sexual trauma. And a part of that is being validated and being believed. And because it's had to do with the outer planets, that had to do with the entire. And I think it was not the Me Too wave, actually, the SRA wave that and acknowledged the fact that the people within were also the children nobody came to save. That is more like it. Like Me Too is a very redundant attempt, and I felt it already back then. But it was an important time phrase. But that was the very first time in my life, and it was creating a lot of troubles for both me and the surroundings, because when it can't go to that outer planet, it will go to the next, and the next one is Pluto. And I became from a person who would just listen to Richard Feynman and the fact that he worked, in Manhattan Project was just a part of his life, to kind of like, oh, this is how A-bombs are occurring on a holistic level. It's atomization of, okay, and how that connects with one another. So that was kind of like a very personal time. And even though the Uranus was trining Uranus, that was like the only time as a person has natal Uranus in the 10th that I felt like, oh my God, why does it even matter that people have to believe me? It means they have to see me in a certain way. And I was like, this is troubles, because because it takes away from my liberation of Uranus in the 10th. And it's kind of like I'm not used to needing to control something like that, or it goes against the grain of basically some of this very major part of who I am. Unfortunately, that's the nature of sexual boundary violation. It's a point like that. That's the thing, okay? And you could try to curate that. It's kind of like a bomb. A-bomb. But the problem is that A-bomb have margins. It's like you don't get, you create the problem. It's not so good. But other than that, Uranus in the 10th, or Uranus midheaven, is a time in your life where you're not going to let how you look in public, how it looks like, to affect what you came here to do. And this is something that can be very liberating for you. And again, the more you try to control things, the more the more you're going to see them. But you might even pay attention that the minute you let go, then those other people, or those other okay, the scandals, or the minute you let go, then you see how, well, the other person is kind of like, oh, okay, the minute you let go, you see that they are also letting go, and that can frighten you in a different way, okay, depending on what the context is. More Uranus tint. Um, Uranus is about space, and I think about the Neil Young song that says, "I need a crowd of people, but I can't face them day to day." So you might be touching bigger crowds, and you're also going to need more space uh, to process things. Okay, Uranus can give you unexpected crowds. I definitely have been facing that in my life. Okay, I definitely have been. For example, right now it is in conjuncting my midheaven, and there is what I came here to do, and then there is having to sacrifice what my podcast is, where it is even, and what I do for what I came here to do, and it works in various ways. And it happened for Metaverse as well. So it's kind of like there's this podcast that's been very astrological, and then there is what I came to do, and trying to both realize that and trying to kind of mitigate things. And Uranus is not the one to be anything to do. You can't tame Uranus. You can let it, with Uranus you need to let go and see what does it came to revolutionize in your life. So when I was trying to get on my podcast to operate in a certain way, or it's like, oh, that is working, okay, now that is working, then comes Uranus and it's like, well, we'll have to rethink that. We'll have to redo that. Um, we'll have to redo that in a certain way. Um, Different charts came up, okay, or different ways to do astrology came up. So that's another way it can take place. You have to see where your natal Uranus is as well. If it is in if the transit is in trine or sextile relation, it means that this is something that is liberating with your Uranus, that is liberating for you, that is supportive of you, that is supportive of who you are and how you express your life energy in the world. If it is kind of like the inconjunct, like it's right now for me, or the square relations, then that might mean um, that you change your trajectory. Okay, with me for the inconjunct, I'm some change of trajectory definitely has been happening. I'm still not really sure where it's going, but it's definitely not where it's been, and um, that was another aspect to it. You want to take a look at who are the synastries and composites, or what do you have at the end degrees of Taurus. Taurus is a Venus ruled sign. So if this is your 10th house, or where your midheaven is, where is your Venus? Who are the Venus figures in your life? It doesn't necessarily have to be women. And and those could be going through revolution as well. Okay, the house that it's in tells you if you have midheaven in the 9th house. This has to do with your worldview, and so it's kind of like losing my religion, or suddenly having one. If it is 10th house classic, so it's just kind of like signification of the 10th house, public persona, and so on. 11th house, goals and dreams. Some people even have it in the 12th house, which might mean that your life mission can have to do with your dream state. Okay. Um, so for those of you who are going through this transit now, then this very likely means that a part of what you came here to do has to do with women, the arts, performative, maybe even sensual, and relation. You came to revolutionize relationships at this point in time. You might be leading a non-conventional, non-monogamous relationship, and that might be very liberating for other people, though unconventional. Um, or you might be you might become a relational astrologer. For some of you, that can be the case. When Uranus was going over my Venus, before that my ruler of 7th and 4th, then it was time where I beginning to become relational astrologer. Um, that that meant that for me. Um, More things to keep in mind. Um, what I said pertains to relationship. Now, if you have it in other signs, okay, you want to know what that sign is. What does it mean for you? I have it in Sagittarius, natally, if it's natal for you, okay? So I have it in Sagittarius, natally, and that means religion, it's 10th house, so parental figures, also people who consider themselves bosses. Uranus Sag does not acknowledge any hierarchical relationship, okay? It just does not. Or it will have unusual expectations from those relationships. Um, okay, so it does not it's not about rebelling authority. It's just it sees the world differently. It's just something else. Um, so that can be Uranus, and um, different signs are going to give it different flavors. Let's say Scorpio can give it. Maybe you came to revolutionize how people to change the way we make a change. That can be. Um, yes, Capricorn, whether it's 10th or 11th, can be you came to change certain structures, okay, that are traditional. So you can revolutionize orthodoxy, but you can also find yourself at times ultra religious or ultra heretic, and so on and so forth. So uh, the key factors. Oh, and anything Uranian that happens to you is going to be very public. Okay, so let's say you have a ruler of the 10th house or ruler of the midheaven, I don't know, in the 12th. Okay, they're gonna know. Okay, 12th house is the dream state. I don't know how to delineate that, but do you think about even people that tended to had teachings around dreams? Okay, but what is the dream state? What does it come to teach us? That can be that combination. Um, and let's say in the 5th house, okay, so that can involve children, but can also involve lovers. Yeah, 7th house maybe publicly married or something like that. um, let's say, if Donald Trump had it recently, okay, then everybody was talking about his spouse as well. It's a Venus ruled sign, and then Venus is for men to the spouse, so that would be Melania. um, and Melania herself, I think she's going to go through Venus, Uranus Venus. So that's kind of like I would be watching Melania. Like, what is she going to do with that? This is going to be very exciting. Um, so, more things to keep in mind with this authenticity. Uranus brings the value of authenticity, and you can't stand it to not be you. At this time, I can say as natal, okay, as natal, Uranus requires authenticity. 10th house usually requires putting on a mask because you have to be public, you have to know your crowd, and this means that when Uranus is transiting your midheaven or transiting your 10th house, you will not sacrifice your authenticity for anything. And that includes your business, that includes your reputation, that includes, and this is why it is so liberating. Okay, this is, it's not, one thing about, let's say you are the Pope. I don't remember the new Pope Leo's chart. Right, but Pope Francis had it, I think, with the midheaven. Um, you're the Pope, okay? God cannot require you to put a mask. Okay? That is, but that is basically how Uranus works, and this is why it is going to be so liberating, because the ability to mask yourself or adapt to others is simply lost. Now, Uranus can take that away even in the form of what looks like neurodivergence. Okay, think about autistic people, okay? they you think about, oh, some neurodivergent people don't even mask, and this is how you can't gaslight them too much, because they don't have. Okay, but if you do gaslight them, it's going to explode in such a way that, let's say you told a neurodivergent person that you are sick to work, okay, and you weren't really sick, so they're just going to follow through. It's like, how you doing, how you this, how you that, as I ask you, is something you need help or someone, and that's just going to, you're just going to have to deal with them, because you told them you don't identify that you lied. So that is the point. Okay, they don't identify that you lied, so they're going to act as if you tell the truth. And this is how, let's say, you will be acting when Uranus is in the 10th house. So that is, you see that that is what those things can come about. um, Scandals here can be so weird. Okay, scandals here can be so weird.